Hi everyone, my name is Emily, and this is perhaps the last chance to tell you my story. At first, I want to apologize for the way I look, as I don't have any opportunity to look after myself. Because of the last few months, I've been living in the woods. I'll explain to you why, but before, subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss new videos. It all started about 6 months ago, when I had the first seizure. A couple of days prior to that, I had nightmares. Well, more of weird dreams to be exact. When I came home, instead of my parents, I met wolves. I wasn't afraid of them at all. On the other hand, I felt comfortable with them before I started getting hairy myself. At this point, I woke up screaming. When I told my parents about these dreams, they changed in the face. However, they immediately blamed video games for this, even though I didn't see any real connection here. By the way, hit the like button if you also have weird dreams sometimes. Let me know in the comments what was the weirdest dream you had. Next night, I woke up because of another nightmare. I had a fever and was covered in cold sweat. I needed some fresh air, so I headed to the window. That was the last thing I remember. I woke up in the woods. I felt so scared and couldn't figure out how did I end up there. It was dark everywhere, but luckily, I'm a former Girl Scout and know how to make a fire out of materials at hand. Hit like button if you've ever made a fire yourself. Rescuers found me in a couple of hours, and soon my parents arrived as well. Turned out, I was 25 kilometers away from home. Mom and Dad were shocked, even more than I was. They couldn't figure out how a small, fragile girl could barefoot walk for such a long distance without a single scratch. And what curious, I don't remember a thing. In a couple of days, when I finally came to my senses, they took me to a psychiatrist. Emily, say hello to Mr. Doolittle.
Oh, you've grown up so much.
Where does he know me from? I thought. He talked to my parents like he's known them for a long time. After he examined me, I went into the hallway while the doctor and my parents continued their conversation alone. I got bored and decided to eavesdrop on what they were talking about.
I think it's time for her to know the truth. This also might help in the treatment. Her case is unusual.
It was the only thing I heard. I was so curious. On our way back, I was expecting from them to say something, but my parents kept silent. I couldn't wait any longer and asked with a serious look on my face if there was something that they wanted to tell me about. Mom and Dad pulled over, looked at each other, took a deep breath, and began their story. Turns out, when I was 6 months old, they went to the woods on a picnic to celebrate their anniversary. Everything was going great until they heard wolves howling and saw a wolves' pack. Parents got a lot scared. Dad grabbed a stick to try and protect us. Mom hid me in a tent and began helping Dad. The wolves did not show any aggression. They were just curious. They understood that people didn't threaten them and left. My parents couldn't believe how lucky they were until they discovered that I was missing. Nor my parents nor the rescue team could find me. Mom and Dad were so worried about it, but tried not to lose hope, even though it was getting harder to do. In 2 years, when they almost made peace with their loss, they got a phone call from the police, who told them they had found me. The fosterers from a neighboring country discovered a wounded she-wolf and a human baby among her cubs. There was even a front-page article about it in the local newspaper. My parents were beyond happy, but soon noticed how weird I behaved. I was constantly gnawing things at home, howling like a baby cub when I wanted something. I couldn't walk on 2 legs, however, I crawled very fast. My parents reached out to many psychiatrists that specialize in children's development, but they did not know what to do. Finally, Dr. Doolittle connected my parents and offered his help as he was dealing with children with Mongoli syndrome. Due to his methods, by 4, I became an ordinary child. I didn't know how to react to it. So, for 2 years, I'd grown up with wolves and my parents hadn't even told me about it? They explained it that they've been hiding it on Dr. Doolittle's advice because memories could bring back my wolf's habits. As for the seizures, turns out that wolf's nature didn't disappear. It had been encapsulated in my memory and now strives to break out for some reason. I have kind of a split personality, except for the second personality is not human, but animal. I know, it sounds creepy. I cannot believe it myself. I've always been an ordinary child. Dr. Doolittle prescribed me different medicine and weekly checkups. I didn't tell anything to my boyfriend William because I was afraid that he was going to break up with me when he finds out I was growing up with wolves and that I was crazy. Besides, nightmares and memory loss didn't bother me anymore, and I was completely back to normal. At least, I thought so, until one day I was hanging out with William, and I had a panic attack, and my eyes suddenly went black. I woke up not far from my home. I didn't remember anything, and was worried what will William think about my inadequate behavior. When I came home, William, with his hand bandaged, has already been there with his father. They both looked at me with terror. Turns out I bit William several times while seizure. My parents had tried to explain that it's because of a rare disease, but William's dad wouldn't even listen a thing. He threatened with the police if I ever come close to his son again. It took a lot for the parents to keep this conflict quiet, but the worst thing was that William began avoiding me. It was the last straw, and I got depressed. Dr. Doolittle's advice was to put me into his private clinic. He was honest and said that the treatment could take years because the case is so unusual. I was firmly against it because it was like a real prison where you have to take strong medications and endure unpleasant procedures. My parents weren't ready for this as well and decided to leave me home for a while under their supervision. I couldn't go anywhere without an escort. When I had to stay home alone, they'd put a collar on me and put me on a chain. Think about it for a moment. They worry about me, I get it, but this is too much. Things had been going like this for a week, and I couldn't stand it anymore. One day, my mom's collar key fell out, and I freed myself when she wasn't looking. She and Dad tried to put it back on, but I was so angry that I bit them and ran into the woods. It was no seizure when I couldn't recall a thing after. I did this instinctively while conscious. I was determined not to go home, because I didn't want to be chained up like a dog. It's not my fault. I don't deserve being treated like this. But I wasn't angry with my parents either. The first problem I faced in the woods was a lack of food. However, it was hiking season, and I managed to steal from the hikers. One day, I almost got shot though. They must have thought I was some kind of animal. I slept by the fire and changed locations every night. One day, I heard some weird noises and thought the hikers got way too far, but then noticed glowing eyes in the dark. There were wolves. I got scared. There was a lot of them. The whole pack surrounded me. As they approached, my whole life flew before my eyes. Suddenly, something awoke in me, and I started to growl and snarl at them. I showed them that I wasn't afraid of them. The leader stared into my eyes for a while, and then he sniffed me. I could feel his breath. The rest was just fragments of memory, as if I were watching from the sidelines. I was running with the pack. I was a part of it. The wolves were showing me their territory. We were howling at the moon all night long. I felt so happy, like I was finally myself. I woke up surrounded by the wolves, laying next to each other. It was the best morning of my life. They welcomed me into their family. I helped to heal their wounds and learned to understand them well. They turned out to be very grateful and loyal. They shared their prey with me, which I roasted on the fire, warded off other predators, and warmed me at night. One day, while exploring new territories, we faced humans. One of them pointed a rifle at the leader, but I managed to shield him, preventing him from firing. At that moment, it was as if I woke up, because William was standing in front of us with his father. I begged him not to shoot, and promised him they would go away. His father put the gun down, but I could see fear and disgust in their eyes, as if they had seen some kind of monster. The wolves and I quickly walked away from there. After that, I realized that I really had turned into a monster. The wolf essence was consuming me more and more. I had completely forgotten that I was a human, not a wolf. I'm fine with them, but I don't belong here. I need to go back to society, but if I go back there, they'll definitely put me in an asylum for a long time. I don't know what to do. I'm completely confused. Guys, let me know in the comments. What would you do if you were me? Hit the like button if you like my story, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the sequel.